Hi there, join me in this video for a sunset shoot at Ramshaw Rocks. So it's been quite a while since I've last been to Ramshaw Rocks. I did visit here and filmed a video about a year and a half ago, just after Christmas, and so it was really cold and I was here for the sunrise. Tonight I'm here for the sunset. It's looking reasonably promising. There's some interesting clouds, but it's quite dense at the moment. Now my weather app does say it's going to clear and thin out a little bit, so hopefully that'll happen and give us some really good colour, but that's not due for another couple of hours, so we've got lots of time to have a scout round and find interesting formations like this boulder here behind me, and I know that I'm really going to enjoy my photography. So I've been scouting around for a location that includes this formation here. It's a really interesting piece of rock, but I have really struggled to find something that makes the composition work. I tried first of all taking a shot of it looking towards the moon that's up in the sky at the moment, but it just didn't seem to work at all. So what I've tried instead is a wide angle version looking out over the valley behind me, and down there is a reservoir that I've included in the shot, and I don't know whether you'll see it from the video or whether you'll see it from the final shot that I've taken, but you can even see right over to Wales. One thing that I am going to be very conscious of doing tonight is to try and take some HDR photographs. So I'm going to bracket quite a lot of my photographs because there's quite contrasted light, but I've got a new program that's just come with Luminar Neo bundled as a package that I've just upgraded to, and that's called Aurora HDR. Now the trials that I've tried with it have proved really successful, and you get some very natural looking HDRs, so I'm going to have a go at doing some of that tonight. Just behind me is a composition that I took when I visited here a year and a half ago, and I couldn't resist having another go with completely different light and completely different environmental conditions. Obviously there's a tree here in the foreground and the leaves are completely out on that now, whereas when I visited before it was just a bare twig. So it'll be interesting to see the comparison with the different lighting conditions and just the different kind of mood that it creates. So I'm just struggling at the moment, waiting for a little bit of light. When I got to this location, the sun was striking this rock here in the background, and it was really standing out because it was very contrasty and it was quite graphic in nature. But as I set the camera up to find a good composition, the sun's gone behind a bank of cloud, unfortunately. So I'm hoping either when the sun drops just a little bit, it will come back out and strike these rocks again so I can get a shot of this. Looking at the clouds at the moment, I'm not quite sure how spectacular the sunset will be. However, if it does drop, it might light the underside of some of this overhanging cloud, and we could end up with something quite spectacular. It's luck of the draw. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll have to wait and see. While I'm waiting at this location now for the light just to come below that cloud bank, what I'm doing is I'm starting to try and think of where I need to be for when the sun actually does set, and hopefully the sky might light up and get some good colour, because it's further round really than I was expecting it to be. So that's really down to lack of planning, but hopefully I can find some interesting foreground to put in front of the sunset to make for a really cracking picture. But in the next half an hour, that is going to be my goal, to try and find a composition that I can put myself in to get the sunset. So that was quite exciting. Behind me, just here in the sky a second ago, was a rainbow. It's now pretty much disappeared, and it only stayed there very, very briefly, but I just happened to be in the right spot at the right time to spy it, and I put some foreground in front of it. Now, it wasn't the best foreground, it was just what I had available at the time, but I did manage to get the full arc of the rainbow, so hopefully that should look quite good when I get it back. So I found what I think will be the best location for the sunset. I don't know what's going to happen, I still can't tell yet, but I've got some rocks here behind me that I can use as silhouettes. I've also, over the valley, there's a farm on the top of a hillside. I may be able to use that, and if all else fails, I can just go from behind the rocks and just take some pictures of the sky. I don't know what's going to happen. There is definitely cloud in the sky. It may light up, the sun may just drop below the horizon, because at the moment there's a big gap between where the sun is and where the clouds start, but you just don't know with this kind of thing. I've got to wait. The sun's going to set in about 20 minutes, so I might just have a little scout around this area while I'm waiting, just to see if there's any little bits of detail that I can take shots of. But it's a waiting game now. Probably something will happen fairly soon. So the sun has just dipped below these hills here behind me, but really it's not quite set yet. Not for another 10 minutes at least will it drop behind the true horizon, which is behind these hills. Because these hills here behind me are quite high, it's still fairly light, but we haven't really got the sunset proper yet. So there are some promising signs of the clouds getting a little bit of colour in, and this might work to my advantage because I'm not going to have the sun pointing straight into the camera lens, but hopefully if the sky does light up, I could get some really interesting colours. So this might not be all in vain after all. So at the moment, I'm just deciding whether we've gone past any possibility of the sky really lighting up. By my watch, it is the time when the sun should set proper, and there's not really any colour appeared in the sky, but I can't tell whether it's really set for sure because it's down behind the hills. So it turns out that the sunset wasn't that spectacular. I did get some interesting compositions with some nice cloud patterns, but there was no real colour. So what I did was some bracketed shots that I'll make into HDRs. So I'll hand over to me back at home to quickly talk through the HDR shots that I've made. So I'm back at home on the computer, and I'm going to give you a very quick whistle-stop tour of how to turn the bracketed shots into an HDR photograph using Aurora HDR. So on the screen now you can see all of the bracketed shots that I took, right down from the very darkest to the lightest. So in the top corner here is an almost black shot that's exposed for the sun, and then down at the bottom I've exposed for the foreground. Now I could have actually exposed a little further there and really lightened the foreground more, but I can do that in software, so that's not a problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start the HDR process running because it does take quite a while, but before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to auto align the layers. That prevents any movement showing up, and I'm also going to click the ghost reduction. So what the program does is, because the clouds would have been moving, it takes one of the exposures and tries to just use that for the clouds to cut out any movement that it detects. So I'm going to start this going because it does take about 2 minutes, but while it's actually going through the process of creating the HDR, I will tell you that I've been really pleased with the results that I've got from this shoot. At the end of the video, I did say that I wasn't sure that the sunrise was very spectacular, and yes, it could have been a lot more spectacular, but the HDR photographs that I've got back have been really impressive. They're very believable and they're very strong in their nature. So I shall definitely be using a HDR again, particularly in tricky lighting conditions. So the image now is compiled, and you you can see that it's really believable. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a few tweaks. I'm going to lift the shadows to bring up the detail in the foreground, and you can see what a difference that makes. There's loads more things I can do in Aurora HDR to improve the image, but I'm not going to spend any time in this video doing that. I could also put it into other software such as Neo or Camera Raw or something along those lines and just tweak it even further. So what I'll do is I'll show you the final versions of the images that were taken as the sun was setting, and then I'll hand back to myself back at Ramshaw Rocks. So I'm back at Ramshaw Rocks. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's not been as spectacular as I thought it might be, but that's the way it goes sometimes. I did get some interesting shots, and I found a good location, and I do know now at this time of the year that the sun dips down below that bank of hills there, and so if the sky was to have lit up, it would have been really spectacular and I would have got some really excellent photographs. Well, if you have enjoyed this video, do let me know down below in the comments, or nip over to my Instagram, that's @DarrellOakden. Leave me your comments there, and you can also see lots of my photographs. Now, if you like what I do on the channel and would like to support me to make future content like this, you can also visit my Teespring store. There I've got a range of merchandise on offer, and there's lots of new designs, and there's a link for that down below in the description, so go and check that out. There's also a super thanks button down below as well. But you don't have to spend any money at all to support the channel. You can do that simply by clicking like, subscribe and the bell notifications, because that really helps me out. It makes sure that you don't miss out on any future content. Watch out for next week's video, that goes live on Sunday. In the meantime, go and check out this video up here. But all that's left now is to say, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.